Welcome into the Trevor Staub Show, episode number 31. Today we have a very special guest. We have the recent Butler County Disc Golf Classic champion, Joel Freeman. We're going to talk to Joel all about that win and that historic round he shot on the final day there. So let's hop right into it. All right, and we welcome on our guest for this week. We have a very special guest. We've got the 2022 Butler County Disc Golf Classic champion, Joel Freeman. Thanks for joining the show, Joel.
Of course. Yeah, my pleasure, and thanks very much for having me on. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
It's great to have you on here. So I wanted to start with your recent win in Pittsburgh. You've been having this great season thus far. You know, I think your season has slipped a little bit under the radar even. Your average finish place has been incredible. You know, I think your worst finish all year was for 41st on the Pro Tour, so not even that bad at all. But what did it feel like finally breaking through and getting your first Pro Tour win of the season?
Yeah, I mean, it felt good. It's funny. I think it probably feels like a bigger deal in some other people's eyes than it does in mine.
Okay.
I think I mostly say that because it's not an elite series. Like, I really want to see myself take down that elite series or major title or whatever. And that, you know, who knows? That might feel just the same. But as far as I'm concerned, like, I'm still chasing after my first big win. I got the match play win, which, you know, felt a little bit different, but that was for a $10,000 payout. So, like, that was if you look at the first place prize, that was like one of the biggest disc golf events in the sport's history. Like, one could argue, you know what I'm saying? So
sure.
It's a little weird. You know, you could also say, like, taking, you know, third place at Maple Hill is harder than coming in first at some of the Silver Series, Butler County or Tallahassee, or, you know, take your pick. Some Silver Series feel like Elite Series because they have that elite field. Others don't. So it's a little bit of a weird kind of, like, it felt great. Obviously the round, the final round, which I'm sure we'll get into, was crazy. So that felt amazing. But as far as just winning the tournament, probably doesn't feel like as big to me as it maybe looks on the outside.
Okay.
Just being honest.
No, I like that realistic approach. You know, a lot of pros I don't really know. Like, I never want to say, like, well, it was just a Silver Series, because it's hard to win on tour no matter what. But it's cool to see that you still got that hunger for, like, that's a stepping stone win. Like, I still want to win on the biggest stage and beat, you know, the loaded fields that we see out on tour.
Exactly.
So it's cool. It's cool. Yeah.
Stepping stone is a perfect term for it. I see it as a great step in the right direction. You know, just having the cameras there to capture it all, and having those four letters DGPT next to that event. You know, it means a lot. But yeah, it doesn't feel like I've got that big, like, bust through the barrier win. You know what I mean? So
definitely. So because of the way your season had been going, you know, you've had multiple top fives. You've been around the top of the leaderboard. You know, you even threw yourself in the mix at Worlds just recently. Did getting this win kind of feel slightly inevitable with the success that you've had this season? Was it something you've just kind of been expecting?
Man, one would hope so. I feel like that's not how it works, right? Like, I don't take anything for granted. I feel like at any moment, you know, humans are so fragile. I think at any moment, like, I could, you know, the confidence could drop and I could feel lost and clueless. You know, like, it's a very hard thing we're doing, you know, like, it's being pro disc golfer. Like, it's difficult to, it might look like we're bulletproof or whatever, but, like, the confidence goes up and down all the time. And so yeah, as much as I would love to say, oh yeah, man, like, I've been so consistent and so near the top, it was, you know, it was inevitable. Like, I wouldn't use that word. It was inevitable that I was going to win one of them. Like, I would love for that to be the case, but, like, the fact is, like, we're just human, and, like, nothing is guaranteed whatsoever. I could be on an upward trajectory 1 minute, and then the next ratings update, I could drop 5 points instead of going up 5 points. You know, it feels, as much as like a perfectionist and kind of someone who enjoys having, I don't know, steadiness in my life or whatever.
Yeah.
I do not have the kind of control that I like sometimes wish I did over my consistency or my game or whatever.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense to me. So I want to talk about one of the factors in that event that was a little bit different for you than others. You know, a lot of people circled this event on their calendar as a USDGC last chance, spot. Last year, like the Canadian Open kind of also falls in that, but this was definitely an event people were looking at like, this is our last chance to maybe get into USDGC. You obviously already had that spot just based on your finish last year at the USDGC. So do you think that you had some extra confidence knowing that you had a spot already guaranteed when other players maybe saw this event as a last chance to qualify and had that extra pressure on their backs?
I don't know if I'm being honest, it wasn't even a thought in my mind.
Okay.
I don't think it really has been ever since I've been on tour. I'm fortunate to have put together an amazing finish my first event on tour ever. That was at the Las Vegas Challenge in 2018, and I qualified for USDGC, literally my first event that I ever played on tour.
Yeah.
So that year, check. And then 2019, I've had a pretty good season. Somewhere in the first half of the season, check. Got it again. And then the last 2 years, I placed in the top 10 anyway. And so I'm in a position where I haven't had to ever think about qualifying for USDGC, which is really cool to be able to say.
Yeah.
So I can't say that much about that question.
No, fair enough. You're right. I mean, you've been able to check that off your list early in the season. There's definitely been some bigger names this year in particular that haven't. And so it's great that that's just something you haven't even had to think about. So I want to talk about that final round. Obviously, it was a pretty historic round. So you're a handful of strokes off the lead going into it, but you're still in the hunt, going into that final day. Mm-hmm. Where was your mind at entering that round?
Yeah, I had been throwing really well in the first 2 rounds, but just was struggling hard with the putter. I just couldn't finish off these birdie looks that I was giving myself, or one amazing eagle look that I'm so sad I didn't make, because that would have been just the craziest eagle. But in any case, I spent some extra time on kind of in the backyard, smoothing out some of those rough edges with the putt, just in hopes to, whatever. I try to take my job seriously, and I consider it part of my job to when I'm having some hiccups, I gotta come up with a solution. I can't just throw in the towel and wait for next weekend and see if I can do better.
Right.
Beyond that, I spent some extra time talking to God that morning and just meditating on just what it was that I was missing, and getting into a good mindset. I was trying to stay real relaxed, and that ended up working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, I take nothing for granted, and so there's no way for me to guarantee that I'll make an adjustment or do better one day or another. And so nothing was guaranteed. I just tried to do what I knew to do, and obviously it ended up coming together amazing. So
certainly. So one of the things I was wondering about is, obviously you had that special round 3. You smashed the course record, shot 14 under par to win comfortably. It's kind of a unique situation because entering the day, you're in chase mode. You've got to chase somebody down for the lead, and then during the midst of that round, you almost have to switch to not only just I have a lead, but I have a big lead. I've got strokes to play with. What was it kind of switching mid round from okay, I'm chasing, now I'm right in the thick of it, to well, now I'm just coasting home? How was that?
Yeah, I try to keep those thoughts to a minimum.
Okay.
I'm not one of those guys who's looking at the score a lot. I will situationally, just if it's important. But if it's not important, I don't try to work my mind harder than I need to, you know, like I already have enough to deal with, enough thoughts to battle, and like whatever anxiety or stress or excitement or whatever it might be, like there's already a lot to manage mentally. And so I think thinking about like payouts or standings are like, you know, it's just like not helpful most of the time. Every once in a while, yes, like it's important to know, and it's like it might help you make a decision. But my point in saying all this was I was aware of the situation for sure. And I was mostly just watching Chandler, mostly keeping track of where we were in relation to one another. But keeping those thoughts pretty quiet and pretty faint in terms of like, oh, I think I'm leading now, or like, oh, I think I'm going into this hole with 3 strokes, or okay, now I have 5 strokes. I would visit those thoughts, and then I would just kind of try to let them go, not try to think too hard about it, because most of the time, seriously, the grand majority of the time, it's not actually going to change the way you should play the hole. Like you need to throw it through the gap. And if you try to change up your game plan and like do some weird layup play, you're just more likely to miss and get yourself into trouble anyway. So I just tried to keep throwing good shots, and I was obviously in the zone, so it made it I don't know, easier and exciting to just like see how low I could go.
Right. Yeah, I like that approach to it. I think you definitely have a wise system there. You know, you can visit the thoughts. There are times where you need it situationally, but you know, getting rid of them, getting them out of your head, because as much as you're saying, they don't really affect your strategy that much most of the round. You're right, and they also don't really help your mind very much during the round either. Like knowing you have a big lead, I guess I could help a little bit, but most of the time, knowing where you are in relation to the score is not going to make the result better. So I think you have a good approach there for sure. But going on off of that, so you obviously shot a very special round, you know, smashing the course record. Was there any point in the round where you kind of thought to yourself, oh, like this is a lifetime round here. This isn't just I'm playing well. This is like course record. Or did you kind of just finish the round and go, oh wow, that just happened?
Well, okay, first of all, the whole like course record, everyone's talking about course record. That's like kind of funny to me, because how many rounds have like I think that was kind of like the 3rd round that has ever really been played by top pros on the course anyway. So it's like you might as well just say hot round of the weekend. That's like the same thing as course record in this case. Course record just makes it sound cooler, which is fine, like whatever. But to me, there wasn't. It would feel so different, you know. Think about, like I mentioned Maple Hill earlier. Think about coming into, you know, whatever, hole 18, sitting at 13 under on Maple Hill, as opposed to coming into this brand new, you know, North Boundary Park. Like it took me a second to remember what the name was. You know what I mean? That just tells me it's not quite like. And I'm not trying to talk it down. It was I like your approach. It was a crazy experience, and I really was like, kind of like I mentioned, I was trying to stay very relaxed, trying to like keep it whatever casual, and just like I know how to do my job. I know how to throw these shots one shot at a time, and that was mostly where my head was at. It wasn't until on the green of 18 I was like, I think I'm in double digit territory. Like this putt might be for a 12 or so, like an 11 or a 12, which is like a sick round, like crazy round. And then I heard somebody say 14, the number 14, and I was like, excuse me, like, is that a mistake? And because again, I was counting, but I was counting me versus Chandler. I wasn't counting my like birdie strokes. And so I had no idea. Like, wow. It was so funny to think back. After my first look at the course, I went home to my wife and I was like, I was like, wow, babe, like shooting under par at that course is like no joke. Like under par is good. And I was like, double digits is like maybe possible, but like
Wow.
it's not going to happen this weekend. I was like, nobody's shooting double digits. Like that's crazy to think. Like if it happens, like that's incredible. And like somebody did something really special. And then round one, I was like, babe, if I was making my putts, I could have shot 13 under today. And we're kind of like laughing, like, wow, 13 under, how crazy would that be? And then final round, it turns into 14. Like,
It's nuts.
speechless. Yeah.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Well, and so the ratings did not reflect your performance very well, as was shown. It was kind of all over disc golf social media for a while there.
Yeah.
At Foundation, we've always kind of been outspoken about the shortcomings with ratings. It's become more of a trend now. Like everybody knows their shortcomings there. Big Jerem actually sounded off against them after your round rated much lower than it should have.
Yeah.
What do you think should happen to the rating system in general? Like, where do you think its place is, or like what changes need to happen? What's your kind of opinion on that?
Cool. Yeah, that's a cool question. Generally speaking, I'll just say, like, I like the rating system. Like, I think it's, for the most part, is smart and is a great start. Like, I think ratings are really cool.
Okay.
And they do a good job most of the time. But like you're saying, there are definitely some like downsides, and it's a very much an imperfect system. So I love the idea, and I really like ratings for the most part. I think they're cool, but I don't think I know the answer to your question. I've thought about it before. I've kind of juggled around different thoughts and speculated a little bit. In Germ's post, he had a cool like he illustrated this idea of like a curve where more each stroke as you're doing better is worth more kind of thing. Which like sounds cool. That sounds smart, but I'm like I'm good at math, but I'm not like a statistics expert or like anything, you know, so I don't feel like it's quite my place to like say what would work. I can only speculate from an amateur's perspective. So, I think some combination of like the original rating system, which is a good head start and a good some good things we can learn from it, in addition to like Germ's like curved thing. I'm sure Germ isn't the first one to come up with that idea. That's just the first time I had heard it. But I think whatever the answer is to that question, I'm excited. It's going to produce some cool, statistics and just like cool information for like the fans of this sport to look at.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the statistical era of disc golf is certainly evolving to a point where we have more data now than we ever have, and there's never been a better time to workshop things like the rating system. There's a million different theories as to what can be done to fix them or change when they're used and whatnot, but I think it's definitely just an ongoing discussion. One of the things that I wanted to bring up that, you know, I've noticed as, you know, I've followed you as a player over the last few seasons is you're not afraid to be outspoken regarding issues with the pro disc golf scene. You know, you're somebody who will take to social media to talk about course design or other issues on tour. And I think a lot of people perceive that immediately as negative because we deal with that on our podcast a lot, is we bring up issues that we want to bring to light and people just immediately say, oh, you're being negative. Why are you being a hater? This and that. When if you don't bring problems to light, they'll never be solved. You know, it's important to do that. Do you think that more players should be vocal regarding the, you know, course design and other issues in order to move the sport further? Do you think the culture around that needs to change?
I feel like need is a strong word.
Okay.
I think it would be cool. I mean, I just my personality, like I'm a very straight shooter. Like it drives me nuts when people beat around the bush. And so that's just like part of how I operate. Like if you if you don't like it, like we might not be friends. And so, you know, like I think with that being part of my personality, I definitely see that divide between people who seem to either love me or hate me or whatever. And like, it is what it is. Like, I just live with that. But I personally would love to live in a world where we all just say what we mean. And like, I just feel like governing organizations would just reach great heights. Like, I feel like we can make progress so much faster when we're not like mixing whatever emotion and greed and politics and like stuff like that into conversations like that, which whatever is inevitable to an extent. But
Yeah.
To give a more direct answer to your question, I think if people were more outspoken about those kinds of things, I feel like it would only do good things long term. Like, it might stir the pot and work people up like short term, but long term, yeah, I feel like it would be a positive thing. And to give the Disc Golf Pro Tour credit, the Disc Golf Pro Tour is amazing, and they have allowed the players to give unfiltered comments for sure. And so, like, I think the Disc Golf Pro Tour as a whole is just doing an amazing job. Like, they are pioneers. They're doing stuff that has never been done before.
Yeah.
Like, they're paving the way, first time ever. And so, like, yeah, you can speculate and be like, oh, they did a bad job of this, or oh, their coverage is bad, or whatever. But it's like, no one's ever done it before. Like, you have nothing to compare it to. And so as far as I'm concerned, like, the Disc Golf Pro Tour just does an amazing job at everything that they've done, because they're making it up as they go. So they have no bar. Like, they're setting the bar. And I just think they're doing a great job. And so, yeah, the Disc Golf Pro Tour, the Disc Golf Pro Tour has given the players an environment and given them space to kind of bring up like controversial things, be very outspoken in a private setting. I think for me personally, like, I've just been learning that like I've been learning what it means to be professional, like, on social media. And I realize it's not the most professional thing to go like treat Instagram as my like unfiltered digital diary, you know, for all the public to see. I realize like I've pushed that line. But like that just comes back down to like, no one taught me how to do all this stuff. Like, I'm just a person, like, trying to grow as a person and learn like whatever, my own personal growth, like, as I'm trying to build a career. Like, I just happen to have a giant crowd watching me while I make my mistakes and, you know, stuff along the way. So it, you know, it's again, it's part of my personality to shoot very straight and be like very unfiltered, and that just no matter what is gonna cause that kind of split of like people who like it or hate it or whatever. And so it is what it is. That's who I am. That's what's going on. So,
well, I definitely love your honest approach to that, and I agree with you. I think the Pro Tour has done the best job ever in disc golf of taking feedback and applying it so quickly, really taking it seriously. One thing I want to do here is I want to rewind your career a little bit, all the way to the beginning, actually, because I like to kind of get some origin stories of the players that I interview.
yes.
Your start in disc golf is a little interesting because, you know, looking at your PDGA profile, it's pretty impressive from the start. You became a member in 2015. Your first rating was 983, and you got to a touring level pretty quickly. So that leads me to the question, you know, when did you first start playing disc golf, and how long were you playing before you joined the PDGA?
Yeah. I think that really what that question should be is like, when did I start throwing a Frisbee? Because that was when I was barely walking. Like, I don't know, I was like 3 or 4 years old. My mom taught me how to throw a Frisbee one day in the backyard in this random moment just for fun. And somehow, like, the Frisbee was just always so much more interesting to me than a ball. Like, Frisbees fly, balls don't. And so I just always thought that was amazing. And so I grew up loving Ultimate. And it was 2011. my junior year in high school, was just finishing up, and a friend of mine was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of disc golf?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've heard of it. I've never played it." And so we just decided to give it a try. And right off the bat, we go to our local disc shop and buy the fastest, our bosses, because they go faster than everything else. And but right off the bat, I could do over 300 feet on a forehand. First hole I ever played, I tried to throw it flat and it went 200 feet. I'm like, oh dang, I'm gonna need to give it this angle.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to call it, but my second shot ever went over 300 feet, probably 320 feet, flex forehand, bam.
There it is.
And that's that, just because I already understood what a round object, what a Frisbee did and how
that's half the battle. Yeah.
And so I already understood a lot of those physics, and I did only forehand for a long time just because I thought with an ultimate disc, you use it backhand. With a disc golf disc, you use it forehand. And there were little exceptions, but that was pretty much it. Fast forward, a couple years, and I was hooked. It was just a hobby, but after a while, I never met anybody who could throw farther than me or beat me. It was just so rare that I would be impressed by anybody playing, or they could do something that I couldn't.
Yeah.
And so I started looking into competing. I was I was that guy who showed up to the tournament and I saw a sign course closed, tournament in progress, and I was like, where do I sign up? I was like, where's the registration? I want to play. And so from there on, I found a tournament to sign up for. My first sanctioned round ever was a 10-24, so that was pretty crazy.
That's insane.
I battled with Joe Revere and Eagle McMahon on lead card that tournament. Mm-hmm. In my first tournament ever. And so then from there on, I was just hooked. And from there, it was just one step at a time, just getting a little bit better each day.
Yeah, the ultimate background certainly is a huge push into disc golf. I think it's so cool, hearing how players figure out that they're good in disc golf, because in any other sport, you're going to be able to play at the high school or collegiate level. You're going to be scouted. I mean, you're going to be 12 years old and people are going to know if you're going Division I or not. And in disc golf, there is nothing like that. And especially if you're not playing sanctioned events at a super young age, you kind of just have to see what's around you and then decide if, oh my goodness, I might actually be good at this thing, and then slowly kind of take steps into the touring scene, one at a time.
Yeah, for me it was YouTube. I looked up a couple of YouTube videos, saw Nico LaCastro and Will Schustrick and Paul Macbeth, and I was like, I could do what they're doing, with a little bit of training and practice and stuff. I could keep up with them, and that plus, this is so funny to think back on, there was somewhere on the PDGA website, there's the definition of each division or whatever, professional can throw 450 plus, makes 7 out of 10 putts from 30 feet or whatever, and I'm I should play professional, and so then that's what I did.
Yeah, that's funny. I remember seeing those. They probably need to update them. The professional field has really evolved since then. Yes. But yeah, I think it's cool just hearing that story, because you certainly burst onto the scene really fast, and have really kept the momentum. So one of the last things I wanted to brush over is a really big part of your brand as a disc golfer, and that is the outfits. The outfits for you have always stood out. It's the easiest way to recognize you on the course. I remember the first time I watched you in person was actually USDGC last year, because you were on one of the cards further up there. And as soon as I saw your outfit, I think you were wearing purple that day. I was like, oh, that's Joel Freeman. I know him from the pants. So you always wear really loud, color coordinated outfits. When did that start? And why did you choose to make that part of your brand?
Yeah. I've never been great at marketing stuff. And so I never thought of it as a personal brand thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I think it started right at the beginning. Literally, the first like tournament shirt I like bought for myself. It was pink. It was just like bright
Nice.
pink, and I was raised by artists. My mom and dad were both professional artists. As I grew up as a kid, I went to school for college for art education, and so I've always just liked color, and just like bright colors are the bomb. Like whatever, I don't know, they just make life more fun. Like why not add some color to your life in any context you can? Like that's what I always. That's the mindset I always enjoyed, and sorry, I lost my train of thought. I think one of the biggest, I'll say two things. One, when I first became a disc golf fan, that's how I always decided who to root for. I didn't know any of the names. I didn't know who was good at what. I just knew, hey, that guy's got cool shoes. Like, I'll root for him. Like, I hope he wins, and so that's how I pick like my guy that I wanted to like win the tournament. I just based it off of what they look like or what they were wearing. And two, it always drove me nuts when these guys are on lead card at the World Championship final round and they're wearing brown and gray. I'm like, what's wrong with these guys? Like, show some personality. So I don't know. I always just made it my goal to just like have fun with it. And it's over the years it's become a reminder, like because again, I do take my job very seriously and I like treat it as my career. And it's a way for me to like keep in touch with the very much just like fun, kind of more playful side of the game. When at times it can feel like, I'm just training, like it's a grind and I'm, all that good stuff. Like it keeps me in touch with that more kind of playful, just fun, lighthearted side of disc golf, this game that we all, know and love. So
I like that. I think that's super important to do when you're out there on tour. So the last thing I want to do here is I like to get themed power rankings for my guests. And so for you, I want power ranking your top 3 favorite colors to wear out on tour.
Wow. Okay, cool. Okay, first one that comes to mind is just like hot pink. It's the color of my strawberries on my strawberry shirt. It's also this little accent color that I have on one of my other shirts. I have this like bright pink belt that I really enjoy wearing with that. So pink is awesome. Next has to be purple, just because that's my favorite color in general. And so whenever I get to, I honestly don't have a lot of purple. I have a lot of blue, but I actually enjoy purple more. So if I could work that in more, that'd be fun. And then let's say, I'm going to say number 3 is just like straight up like neon green. Like, like just lime green, in your face green. Like, there's this one shirt, I'm looking at it right now, but it's all wrapped up. Otherwise I would grab it and show the camera, but, it's not quite what I'm wearing. Like this is more on the yellow side, but like push this same kind of color towards the green. Still.
Right in between.
And I wore it at Beaver State Fling a couple years back, and I was able to get on Jomez.
I remember that.
Yeah, and my shirt like broke the camera. Like
that's the best.
Yeah, like it looked all wrong and like glitchy because my shirt was like too bright for the camera or whatever, and it was like maybe had a little bit of that green screen effect or something, but. That's always just been one of my favorite colors, so I love rocking that one. That's another color I don't have much of, unfortunately. So I got to try to work more of that in. But
I love it. Have you ever thought of making like one color, like your final round color in particular?
Oh man,
because no. I think that neon that could be it. That could be.
I mean, yeah, no, I hear you. That pushes against the grain of my personality quite a bit because it sounds unoriginal to me. I'm like,
Okay.
if Tiger Woods did that, I'm not doing it. You know,
You're
what I'm
right.
saying? Having said that, the ice cream sundae shirt is 2 for 2. It's got ice cream on it.
Yeah.
But because of ice cream sundae, like I only wear it on Sundays.
So there you go.
So far, the 2 times I've worn it, I've won a Pro Tour event. So
I mean, that's original enough because A, it's a pattern, and B, there's a pun involved. So,
yeah.
I mean, I respect that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Joel. Well, thanks so much for joining the show tonight. I mean, it was great having you on here. I think that you've definitely got a great season going, and hopefully it continues.
No doubt. Yeah. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed the chat. And again, just thanks anybody out there who's tuning in. Appreciate your support very much. And onward and upward.
Awesome. All right, and thanks again to Joel for joining the show. It was great hearing from his kind of mentality in disc golf. I think it was really interesting, his honest approach to the way he assesses that win at Butler County and just the way he looks at his season in general. I think that was really cool hearing from him. Make sure to be here Thursday next week. We're going to have another great guest, and we'll see you then.